Thursday night demo. Tonight we're going to be making butternut squash soup and buttermilk biscuits, which are so good for today on a cold day like today. It's freezing in here. Just a reminder that we are open 10 to 5 every day except Sundays 10 to 4. We are allowing 10 customers into the store with a full cloth face mask on. If you want to do curbside pickup, we're happy to do that too. Just give us a call or email us at info@acook'semporium.com and we will take care of you for that. Not this weekend, but the following weekend, Friday the 6th through Sunday the 8th, is early bird days in downtown Bath. Because of the pandemic, of course, we can't have huge crowds in here. So we're doing it across the 3 days. We're doing just our regular hours, 10 to 5 Friday and Saturday, 10 to 4 on Sunday. 20% off store-wide. There are some exceptions. Unfortunately, we can't discount alcohol or our electrics, and we can't discount anything that's on a deep promo, but we'll probably just pull those out so you're not tempted by them. Gift certificates are also on discount, 20% off, so hopefully you'll stock up on those. And those you can order, you will be able to, you can't yet, but you'll be able to order those online or by phone. If you don't need to come into the store, you'll probably save yourself some wait time. If you are coming in person, we can still only allow 10 customers in the store at once, so please dress warmly. There may be lines regardless of which day you come and what time of day. We never know who's going to be here, and we don't know how many people are going to take advantage of this great 3-day sale. So please dress warmly. We'll try to get people in and out as fast as we can, but obviously you want to have time to shop, and we don't want to rush you. So dress warmly. The other thing I want to mention is please keep in mind that Christmas is going to be the same as it is now. Stores are not going to be able to have big, huge crowds in. So a plea from the Bath businesses, and in fact all over Maine and wherever you are, please do some small shopping this year. It's going to really help everybody to get through the winter. It's going to be a rough Christmas season, I think, for a lot of businesses, because I think a lot of people will order online. So on behalf of our fellow businesses and, again, all over Maine, please shop small as much as you can, and please start early, because, again, there are not going to be crowds and crowds and crowds of people in the store. Only 10 people at a time in our store, and we've got a lot of square footage. So thank you for that. We really appreciate that. And let's get started on our soup, because we're cold and we need something to warm us up. Tonight we're making butternut squash soup. The recipe should be posted on our website. I think it was posted on Facebook. If it wasn't, it will be soon. This is a really good basic soup recipe. You can take out, if you don't like ginger or if you want to try something else, just leave the ginger out. Butternut squash, garlic, onions, and a potato and stock is a really easy basic soup. And then you can take it from there and add some other things. If you look at the bottom of the recipe, I've already added some suggestions, like putting in some diced apple and some maple syrup, or putting in some leftover chicken or whatever to add some more protein to it. But the soup with the butternut biscuits that we're making today, a nice big salad, and maybe the salted caramel apple galette that we made 2 weeks ago, perfect meal for this time of year. Lots of fall flavors and colors and nutrition. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is cut up. The recipe says a large onion. I just have small ones, so I'm just going to chop these. Because we're going to puree this soup, you don't need to make it really, perfect size dice or anything like that. Just get this peeled. I am going to cut stuff pretty small because I want this to cook fairly quickly so that you can see the whole procedure. So we'll just get our onion that does not want to peel. And we compost here, so saving all our little bits and pieces. We do garbage to garden here, which is statewide, I believe a lot of towns have it. You can go online to their website and check it out. They pick up your compost once a week, and you get compost in return. I think it's around $15 a month or something like that. But it's a great service, and you can put everything into their compost. You can put meat bones and stuff like that, which you normally wouldn't want to put in your home compost because you'll get a lot of critters. But we love Garbage to Garden. We do sell their big 5-gallon buckets here. They're $5 a piece, no tax. So if you do go that route, come see us for your bucket and anything else you might need. We have lots of countertop buckets as well, compost buckets, either for the Garbage to Garden or if you just want to compost on your own. Okay, so our onion is well chopped. I already melted the butter because I want this to cook pretty quickly. And it's on there. So there's our onion. Then we have 1 large clove of garlic, which does not, again, have to be really minced up because it's all going to get pureed with our Immersion blender. But we'll just make some smaller pieces. Then we have our ginger. Now the ginger, we do want to chop pretty small. The reason being that there are all these fibers in there, and they're very long and stringy. And if you don't cut it against the grain, you're going to get these big long strings in your soup, and we don't want that. Ooh, those onions are strong. My eyes are watering. So I'm just going to quickly peel the ginger here. You can, if you have a nice bright and shiny skin on your ginger, you don't really need to peel it. The skin is edible. As you can see, I'm not being super careful here. And I'm just going to cut this. I'm not going to mince it completely, but I am going to cut it fairly small because I don't want any of those strings. And when you're doing this, make sure you tuck your fingers under so you don't cut thumbs and fingers. Okay, so this is all going to saute for just a couple of minutes while the onions turn kind of translucent. Translucent means the light goes through, but you can't really see through it. And it doesn't take too long for that to happen. While that's cooking, I'm going to cut into my squash here. Now you can peel this with a peeler if you want to. I usually just use a knife. And I'm going to cut the ends off. And then I usually cut the big bulb here where the seeds are. I cut that as well. Just makes it a little easier to peel it. As I said, you can use a vegetable peeler or you can just take your knife. You do not want to use a ceramic knife for this because very likely you will snap it. This is definitely a steel knife kind of job. And I just want to get all of the peel off there. You do want a pretty hefty knife for this, just because it is fairly hard. That is dense, not difficult, but the vegetable itself is hard. So you want a good size knife to do that. And then I'm just going to cut this. And I probably could have used a little bit bigger knife here on this. It's a very solid squash. And again, you can do these if you have the time to spare. These can be in fairly big chunks. You're just going to boil it for a while. But I am making it fairly small because I want it to cook fast-ish. And this isn't the type of thing that it makes a difference how fast it cooks or how slowly it cooks. It's not really going to change the flavor at all.
There's a question, what kind of knife are you using?
This is a Wusthof. This is a 6-inch chef's knife. I probably would prefer right now to have something a little bit bigger, like an 8-inch. Again, just because, as you can see, the length of the knife is about the same length, and it would be nice to have a little bit more heft to it, but that's okay. This will work just fine. These are forged knives, so you can see here where it's been kind of bent and pounded and folded and stuff. And the forged knives will stay sharper longer. They're easier to sharpen. The other knives, the stamped steel knives, are still very good quality steel, but they're not as hard. The metal is not as hard as when it's forged.
And could you confirm that you would prefer an 8-inch knife?
I would personally would prefer a longer knife, an 8-inch or a 10-inch chef's knife. Now, other people may not be as comfortable with a big knife, and you should use the knife that is comfortable for you, because that's going to be the safest knife to use. And also, as much as you may not like to hear this, a sharp knife is way safer than a dull knife. So make sure your knives are nice and sharp. We do sharpen knives here. It's $4 per knife, and we can do straight edge blades. We cannot do hunting knives or serrated knives or kitchen shears, but we can definitely do regular knives, and we're more than happy to sharpen those for you. We just ask that you plan to leave them for 24 to 48 hours. So with this knife, you can see I can kind of go around a little bit. You would not be able to do that with a ceramic knife without snapping it. Ceramic knives are awesome. They stay sharp a really long time. They're fabulous knives, but they do have some limitations, so you just want to be aware of that.
And Brenda also feels that a ceramic knife is not a good choice.
Thank you for confirming that, Brenda. Okay, so I'm just going to scoop the seeds out. Now, you can save the seeds, just like pumpkin seeds. If you want to, you can save these. Just spread them out on a sheet pan and roast them with a little bit of sea salt or whatever kind of spice you like on them. And you can use those on a garnish on your soup. And if you're doing jack-o'-lanterns for Halloween on Saturday, same thing. Save your seeds if you like pumpkin seeds, and you can roast them up yourself with whatever kind of spice mix you like. You can make them sweet and savory, or you could make them spicy, or whatever you like, however you like it. All right, and so I'm just going to cut these last pieces up a little bit. And that is sizzling pretty well. I'm just going to turn it down a little. It's kind of browning on the bottom, because as usual, I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing, but we're not going to worry about that too much. And then the last element to go in the soup, or the last vegetable element to go in the soup, is going to be the potato, and we put the potato in for thickener. Because it's so starchy, it'll thicken your soup right up. Last week when I made this at home, I had a gigantic squash, which was awesome, but I needed a little bit bigger potato than I had, so I ended up using 2 small potatoes, which worked fine. If you find that your soup is too thick at the end when it's done, you can always add a little bit more stock to it. It is relatively hard to re-thicken it, although you could make some mashed potato and stir that in, and that would help too.
The question about the knives is still interesting. And which company are we using for our ceramic knives?
So our ceramic knives come from a company called Cuisinart. They are a Japanese make. And they're lovely. Most of them have white blades, white ceramic blades, and then there are lots of different colors for the handles. So if you like to have color in your kitchen, it's a great option. Okay, so there's our potato. And now I'm going to add some water to this and get a little steam bath while I'm at it. And that was about 4 cups of water. It was 4 cups of water. It wasn't even about. It was exactly. And that looks like enough for right now. Like I said, if it's too thick when we get to actually making it, then we can add some more broth. You can use chicken broth. If you're vegetarian, you can use vegetable broth. The other thing I meant to mention too is I use butter in here, but if you are vegetarian or vegan, use your favorite kind of oil instead of the butter. And that's really the only thing that's not vegetarian or vegan in here. Okay, so I just added a little bit of Better Than Bouillon chicken broth because I like chicken broth. This is awesome. You can get this down at Brackett's here locally. You can get it at Shaw's or Hannaford or whatever grocery store you shop at. They should have this. It comes in lots of different flavors, and it's a really nice, clean flavoring. So turning the heat back up here and stirring that up nicely. And I'm just going to quickly wash my hands. Amuse yourselves while I do this or get caught up. And we're going to start the biscuits. So that's basically all you have to do for the soup until it's all cooked. It's on high. Good. Okay. So the biscuits I'm going to make in the bowl. And this is a lot like the pie dough where we're putting in the cold butter and working it in gently before we add our liquid. And we've got, I have to cheat and look at my recipe, 2.5 cups of flour, 2.5 cups of flour, and then I have here, and this is on the recipe, tablespoon of baking powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, don't get those confused, some sugar and some salt, and that's going right in here. And we'll mix that around a little bit. And then I'm going to cut my butter, and this is nice cold butter. It just came out of the fridge right before we started. And you want it to be cold because you want it to work in like we did with the pie dough. You just want it to work in gently and not get all melty. So we're just going to make this into some little cubes. And if you've watched me before, you know that I like to use my hands and get my hands dirty. And I am going to start that way, but I may use the pastry cutter just a little bit. So I'm breaking up the cubes here so they're all getting covered with flour. And then I'm just going to gently work the flour into the butter. And this is going to help them be really flaky. This is a good way to do scones as well. The last time when I did the galette, there was a comment that you can make pie dough or this dough, I'm sure, very quickly and easily in your food processor, and that is absolutely true. You do want to be very careful not to over mix it, though.
Are you using salted butter? This
is salted butter because I like salt. You do not have to use salted butter, or if you are trying to cut down, you can use salted butter, but don't add the teaspoon of salt. Just do it without the extra salt. The buttermilk's going to add a savory flavor to it, so you don't absolutely need the salted butter, but this is, in this case. It's usually what I have on hand at home. So again, we can see how that's mixing, and this is a pastry cutter, and we're just going to work this and try to get our butter cut up. You want to make sure you're stirring your flour around a little bit so you're getting all of the butter here. Now this is a lot less butter than what we use in a pie dough, but we're adding, in this case, the buttermilk, so that's going to take the place of some of the butter that we'd use in a pie dough. And also, of course, this is a very different animal. So that's getting pretty good there. Just going to take a look with my fingers. So I do, even if you're using a pastry cutter, I do recommend that you try it with your fingers too, so you can feel how big the pieces of butter are in here, because you don't want big clumps at all. You want it all kind of broken down. And this is not going to look exactly the same as the pie dough. It's not going to be nearly as ragged because there's not as much butter in here. And so it's also going to be a little bit quicker to make to get to the right point. So I'm going to call that good. And now we're going to add our buttermilk. And buttermilk is important. Yes, you can just use plain milk, but buttermilk really adds a really nice savory flavor to it. So highly recommend using real buttermilk. Okay, and I'm just going to mix this up with my hands, slosh it all over the counter. And we don't want to mix it too much. Want it to be kind of a gentle mix. And this is going to be quite a wet dough. But it's going to make some really tasty and really fluffy biscuits for us. So I'm just transferring this to my mat here, where I'm going to finish mixing it. You can see it still has a little ways to go. So I'm just going to gently massage it in, if you will. I don't want to really mix it hard. I don't want to do this in a KitchenAid or stand mixer. You certainly can. It's not going to kill it, but again, you want to just be really gentle with the dough. And make sure that it's not getting overworked. And it's going to stay pretty ragged. Ragged, it's pretty self-explanatory when you see it. It's all kind of ragged, really. Okay, so now this is something that I had never done before with biscuits, only with croissants, but I saw this in a recipe and it made beautiful, flaky, layered biscuits. And so I am going to show you how to do this. You do not have to do this. You could cut these just like this, pop them in the oven, and Bob's your uncle. But what we're going to do, just with our hands and as gently, I mean, obviously we're pressing it, so it's not that gently, but fairly gently, push it out into a rectangle, and then we're going to fold it up like a business letter, turn it around, and we're going to do that again. And this is laminating, so this is what you do with like a puff pastry or croissant dough to make all those awesome layers in there. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but you're going to see when we cut these out, you're going to be able to see the layers, and as they bake, it's going to be just beautiful.
So can you also answer technical questions about watching this? Brenda Nelson is saying, I'm watching on my mobile and trying to cast it to my Roku TV.
Oh.
No luck. Is there a way?
So this is why what Heather would be probably able to answer that. Heather is on vacation, and tonight it's me and Karen is doing a fabulous job on the filming, but neither of us have an answer to that, how to get it onto your Roku. I have Apple TV, and I don't use it that much, but I could probably figure it out if I had it in front of me.
You can mirror it.
Yeah, you should be able to mirror it, but I don't know. I'm not really sure how to do that. I'm sorry, I am not technical. Okay, so we are now using the rolling pin And I'm going to roll this out. It's probably, I should have put a little bit more flour down because this is going to be pretty sticky. But I'm just going to cut this into some circles. And you can see that's about maybe a 1/2 inch thick. And they are no longer circles, but they'll be okay. So there's 6. And then I'm going to take the dough and I'm just going to do this one more time. Again, I don't want to overwork it because it's going to come out kind of tough. And we want it to be really flaky. And you can kind of see, well, I don't know if you can really see, but there are layers in there, and you will see these when they bake, they'll puff up. So this last bit of dough, I'm just going to hand form this into a heart. Not a very good heart, but it's a heart, trust me. It doesn't look anything like a heart, but that's okay. So there's my sort of pseudo heart and my round biscuits. And I am going to pop this in the oven, and this is going to go in at 425 for about 15 minutes or until nice and golden brown. That says 16, but I'm not going to worry about it because, as you know by now, I'm not that precise unless I have to be. So here's our soup boiling away beautifully. And squash is a little bit hard still, so I am going to tell you about the variations on the soup that you can try. So curried butternut squash soup is fantastic. Whatever your favorite curry is, favorite curry mix, just add, I would do maybe a tablespoon and then see how that tastes and see if you need more. I mentioned the fresh apple. You can put the apple in first and puree it with the rest of it, or you can do it separately. I often will saute it in a little bit of butter and then throw it in after I've pureed so you get some chunks. The squash seeds on top as garnish, fresh herbs as garnish. You can, instead of the ginger, you can use cumin and coriander and then use some fresh cilantro on top for kind of a Mexican idea. If you have other vegetables in the house, or if you don't have butternut squash, you can use carrot or sweet potato instead of the squash or along with the squash. You can roast and crush some nuts or seeds. Dried cranberries are good in this too. If you have some quinoa or some other grains that you want to throw in just to add some more texture, that's awesome too. And like I said, if you have leftover chicken or something like that, if you roasted a chicken, you have some leftover meat, just chop that up and throw that in as well, and that'll give you a little bit more protein. All right, we're going to just go for it here, see what happens. This is our Cuisinart Immersion blender. This is like your basic model. They have several different models. And it's nice because it comes apart really easily. You just push this button and it pops off. You don't want to immerse the motor in water, but it should be pretty clean. If you have a spatter or whatever, you can wipe it off with a damp cloth. And this piece can be washed by hand. Be very careful about the blades on your fingers because it is very sharp. Now, the most important thing, and if you were with me for the butter chicken, you saw me splatter myself. The most important thing is do not turn it on until it's immersed. Otherwise, you're going to get butternut squash soup all over the place and probably possibly burn yourself fairly badly. Pardon the dough on my fingers. There we go. So I'm just gently working this in to get the big chunks ground up. And you can probably see that it's starting to get kind of pureed in there. It has a little ways to go. But the action of the blades is actually going to kind of suck stuff into it. So once you kind of get the bigger pieces done, you can kind of just splatter yourself. You can kind of just move it around. I think those are still a little big for that. And this is definitely going to need some, you can see how thick it is already. It's definitely going to need some more broth in it, or at least some more water. But this is such a quick weeknight dinner. You can make the biscuits ahead. You can freeze the biscuits before you bake them and just bring them out. Put them right in the oven, in the hot oven while they're still frozen. Don't defrost them first. They'll take a little bit longer to bake, but they'll work just fine. But if you want to make them ahead and just put them in a bag, like a stasher bag, in your freezer, they're awesome to pull out when you need them. And like I said, a nice big green salad with this, and you've got a fantastic, healthy dinner. All right, I'm going to call that good. Might need a little bit more. And I'm just going to take that apart. And I'm just going to grab a little bit more water so we can thin that out just a little bit. And I've got about 2 cups here, but I'm not sure that I'm going to use it all. If you like your soup thick, leave it thick. You can kind of make it whatever texture or consistency that you prefer. There's still a few pieces. The other thing is, I meant to say about the potato, if you want to peel your potato, go for it. I don't usually. I make sure I wash it, scrub it really well. Still a few chunks in here, so we're going to go back in. But I don't bother to peel my potatoes. But if you want a pure soup without any flecks in it, you can certainly peel it. This has also a low and a high, just so you know. And let's see, I'm pretty sure we got all of those bits. Now, as I said at the beginning, if you can cut your vegetables into bigger pieces, there's no problem with that. It will take a little bit longer to cook before it's ready to be pureed. You can also, of course, puree in a large blender or in a food processor. What I love about using the Immersion blender is I have 1 pot to clean at the end of the day instead of a couple of pots and the blender or the food processor. So this just keeps your cleaning down to a minimum, and I don't like to do dishes, so kind of a no-brainer. So this is all set. You want to taste it and see if there's any adjustments that you want to make to the seasonings, but that is your butternut squash soup. And let's take a look at our biscuits and see how they look. They've got still about 10 minutes left on them, so we're not going to pull them out yet. But you can see they're rising, and let's see if we can see. So you can see here, you can see all the layers here. So those are going to be really nice and flaky. They're going to pull apart beautifully, and a little bit of butter and jam on those in the morning for breakfast. Oh my goodness, so good. I do want to mention a couple of things again. Don't forget early bird. Next weekend, Friday the 6th, Saturday the 7th, and Sunday the 8th, 10 to 5 Friday and Saturday, 10 to 4 on Sunday, 20% off, gift certificates, and most items in the store. Again, we can't discount everything, unfortunately, but we will try to make it good for you. And then Christmas, please, please, please shop small if you can, and please start your Christmas shopping early, because no matter what store you're in, they're not going to be able to have the crowds that you are used to. And then lastly, but not leastly, for our soup tonight, Joel has picked out a couple of viogniers. These are both in the $25, $24.99, $26.99, but well worth it and so delicious with your butternut squash soup. Next week, we are going to have a special guest with us. Karen is going to come in and make schnitzel with rotkohl and spätzle with me. I made it over the weekend, and it's a little bit of a production, but it's really fun, and the end product is delicious. So please join us next week, Thursday at 5 p.m., live on Facebook or on our YouTube or website. And we'll see you then. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye-bye.